So, welcome everyone. Good to see all of you. Now, this week's topic is mostly about duality and change. And so, today's topic specifically is happiness and duality. So, there's a little reflection today on what duality actually is and how that affects us, what it does to our mind, and how our mind operates within the realm of duality. And duality here means simply, you can also say, really change, that every state is continuously changing into other states. Birth is changing into death. The in-breath is changing into an out-breath. Negative emotions are changing into positive emotions. Good things that we consider good are changing to bad things back changing to good things. This is continuously moving on in our life like this. It's something that you can observe and understand directly for yourself. There's no need to believe me when I say these things. You can just look at your own life and see, is there any state that has lasted? Is there any emotion that has lasted? That is there in an unbroken way? Is there any good thing that has permanently stayed a good thing? Is there any bad thing that has permanently stayed a bad thing in your life? And for something to be a certain way, it has to be experienced a certain way. So the question is, do your experiences last? And do your good experiences, are they essentially and eternally good? Are your negative experiences essentially and eternally negative? How many times have you had something bad happen to you in your life, something rather unfortunate, and it turned out to be the greatest thing ever, but it took some time so you could see why you went through that? How many times did you go through suffering and in the end you noticed that it made you more patient, more compassionate, more understanding, more forgiving, more kind maybe? How many times have you thought of something as to be the ultimate happiness and the most amazing thing, only to find out later that it is not lasting, it's not permanent? Like relationships are probably the most popular topic in that one. We think that one person is definitely the source of our happiness, of our joy. And it turns out later that this is not really the case, because people change. And our emotions and our moods also change all the time. So nothing is really stable. Nothing, in other words, we can say is actually reliable. When you are alone, when you are single, then you can say you suffer like a single. You suffer being a single. And when you're in a relationship, then you suffer like being in a relationship. It's probably the most easy way to illustrate that, and I do that again and again, please forgive me, but it's something you can observe right here and now, is your sitting posture. How you sit right now. There is no good and bad. There is just change constantly. The way you sit right now, it slowly turns bad. This is something you can observe, right? Just don't move. Does it get better? No, right? It gets worse. And you don't have to do anything for it to get worse. You don't have to make it worse. It just gets worse. And so what do? When it reaches a peak point, you change your posture. And then that appears like a solution. Yes, that's great. But is it really a solution, or is it apparently a solution? There's a difference between something being really something or apparently something. Apparently it looks like a solution. Really, though, it's just the next problem. It's just another pain that is just about to start. You can try. This is something to be experimented. with and seen by yourself. Again, these teachings are never anything to believe in. This is not something that I encourage you to believe in just because I say so, or because it is written in an important text, or the Buddha said it. But this is to be experienced. Well, is it true? When you're hungry, food appears like really, really a nice thing. So you go and you eat. The more hungry you are, the less selective you become. You just want to eat something. So once you eat, it feels like amazingly pleasant. But if you continue eating, the apparent pleasure turns into the next suffering. And so eventually that suffering forces you to stop eating. So when you're hungry, you suffer like a hungry person. When you eat, you suffer like an eating person. And it might appear quite depressing to reflect on that, because it really confronts us with a heavy fact that there is no happiness to be found in stuff, in things, in events, in circumstances. You can't find anything that is reliable, that is ultimately good. And yet, that is precisely what moves us continuously through life. The idea that there will be something good in the future, and I just need to make sure that it will be good. So will the future be good or will it be bad? Well, we can say we don't know whether it will be good and bad. We can say maybe it'll be both, good and bad. There will be good things in your future and there will be bad things in your future. Now, if you make that decision that you need to make about your future, how to proceed, will that decision make your future good? It's uncertain. It's not sure. It will do something, but it will not lead to the desired happy ever after ending. Many people stress out about decisions. I know that very well for myself. I need to make a decision. I better make the right decision. That is based on fear. Fear is based on control. We want to be in control of something that we cannot be in control of. I want to be in control of my future. I want to control that I make sure that my future will be good. Exclusively. Just good. It needs to be good. And whether my future is going to be good or not depends on what I do right now. And in a very funny way, most people think the more I worry about my future right now, the better it's going to be. But in reality, it's just stress here and now. So you're not healthy, happy right now. That's a fact. As soon as you worry about the future, right now, you are unhappy and stressed. Now, will that unhappiness and that stress make your life better? Well, again, in the face of duality, we don't know. Maybe that unhappiness and that stress pushes you to the brink of awakening. It makes you suffer so much that you start asking the right questions. Maybe you start asking yourself, what am I doing to myself? Maybe I should go and visit a meditation class. Maybe I should have a look at what is this mind doing. That comes from having suffered enough. There is a sort of curiosity that arose from pain. My mind doesn't give me any respite. I can't rest. I can't sleep. I suffer. Therefore, is there a way out of suffering? So suffering is beneficial here, isn't it? This again is duality. It's not that suffering is bad. Is it? Well, obviously not permanently. Is it good, though? Is suffering good? Well, it depends. It's so hard to say because it's constantly changing. It's one thing that changes into the other. And it is this eternal movement in everything. There is no resting place to be found, really. And when we understand that more and more deeply, then we start asking, maybe we start asking questions like, well, where can I find some true respite, some true rest? Where can I find true happiness? And then you might think, maybe in the beginning, okay, I need to change my thinking. Maybe I should only think grateful and positive thoughts all the time, and I will be more happy, and that will be good. So you try that. You try to be a good person, only to find out that you will suffer like a good person. And it's just the same thing. Like changing your job, changing your relationship, changing your underpants. If you change your thinking, it's the same thing. It just doesn't last. And the more positive we start to think, that the more we tend to be confronted with the negative. The more you reject the negative, because very often positive thinkers, they reject the negativity of life. They search the light, yet they reject the shadow. And if you reject that long enough, it becomes louder and louder. So if you really go for that, if you start to become like super positive, you're going to be challenged by super negative things as well. It's almost like it's mocking you, because it's ignored. It's not seen as an agent of transformation, and that's what duality really could be, an agent of transformation. Something that inspires you to let go, to release, to find peace here and now, not elsewhere. And that's a radical shift, a radical change. And for the mind that is based on future and past, on time, on thought, on the idea that I'm an unhappy person that must become happy, so I must be in control of everything so that I can be happy, such a mind doesn't allow you to rest. Because it constantly has some demands. It constantly needs to get something done. So you can't rest. It's impossible. Only if you go to sleep, then the mind is switched off for a little while. If you still can sleep. Some people can't sleep even anymore because their mind is just constantly invading, telling them, you should be sleeping now. So try to sleep. You're still not sleeping. So it even tries to control sleep. And so you can't relax, right? It's called insomnia. You literally don't let yourself relax because you want to be in control over the most natural process of a human being, just going to sleep. So it's this inner control freak that is a fear-based entity, this fear-based little me that must somehow get somewhere so that all the fear and all the problems end. For that entity, the realm of duality is an amazing playground. For ego, for the egoic entity, it's an amazing thing. You have so many choices. You could do so many things and you could mess up in so many ways. And if you mess up, nobody will love you anymore. Everybody will despise you. They'll all look down upon you. They will all think negative things about you. So you better don't mess up. You better always be at your best behavior. That is something you must control the whole day. They're all kind of wearing some sort of masks most of the time, just pretending to be someone that I'm this and that. I'm walking through life like that kind of person. And it's just thought-made stuff based on fear. And so it's a step to dare to be naked, to let go, letting go. One of the most difficult things to let go of is control. And I would encourage you not to think of it as like you have to let go of control now, once and forever. Now, after you leave that class, you better let go of control. That's just another aspect of controlling, right? That's like a spiritual control freak. I better be enlightened very soon, and I need to control myself so I get enlightened very soon. It doesn't work like that. But once you let go of control, the magic just happens. You start to relax. The example that's very often is given is like if you have a cup of tea, and if you're holding it, and you try to make the tea calm. You can try. You can do that today. Even though your intellect already knows the answer, that you can't make it calm. But nonetheless, try. Show your mind that. Pick up a glass of water and try to hold it in such a way that it becomes calm. With not one little ripple on top of it. No movement. It's impossible, right? You can't ever be completely calm. But once you put the water down on the table, what happens to the water naturally? It becomes calm immediately. And it becomes calm not because you, the great ego, has made it calm, but it becomes calm because you stopped holding it. The same thing is true for your mind. It becomes calm as soon as you stop trying. As you stop holding, you stop manipulating, you stop even, quote-unquote, meditating. I'm meditating now. It can be like a super controlling activity. For many people it is. I must forcefully focus on the breath now. Wow, damn it, I'm still not peaceful. When does the peace come? Maybe I must try harder. Maybe I haven't done enough yet. And as long as we are pushing like this, of course you don't relax. One thing about genuine and good practice is that it works right out of the box, immediately. As soon as you let go, there is peace. And maybe in the beginning it's just a short moment of peace before the mind comes right back in and says, yeah, but you can't just relax. You don't deserve to be happy. Right? You haven't done anything to be happy like that. You just sit on a park bench. How can you be happy? You're relaxing, you're on holidays. You don't deserve to be happy because you haven't done anything great. You haven't stopped any war in this world. People around you are still suffering like crazy. How can you relax? Haven't you read the news today? There is no time to relax and to be just happy. You need to do something to make this world a better place. And look, that's what we're all doing all the time. We try to make the world a better place. And thousands of years of trying to make the world a better place. Does it work? At some point we have to question our methods, right? Is what we do, is it working? If my goal is to be happy, and I'm trying for 10 years to be happy, and it doesn't work, well, it begs for the question, is what I'm doing really working? Is the method working? Is I still find myself struggling and fighting and unhappy? And the real practice, genuine practice, it works right there, right here and now. But it requires a certain daring attitude. You have to really let go of time. In other words, you have to let go of thoughts. And then you have to engage that thoughtless, that silence inside, this sweet, beautiful silence for long enough. So you learn to appreciate it. And for a beginning practitioner, the great challenge is that your mind will constantly try to pull you back into noise. Now, what I tell my mind when that happens is, look, I deserve some rest. I deserve some happiness here and now. Don't I? You would tell Tobi, of course you do. You deserve some happiness. But how about yourselves? Do you let yourself relax? than sit down on a bench somewhere just for the sake of sitting there. Just listen to the ocean, can you? For 30 minutes. Just being there, listening to the waves. Not doing anything but that. Just being there. And I promise you, if you can do that long time, 30 minutes or so, you just be there, you will feel happy and relaxed and at ease. Because for 30 minutes, there's no problem at all. Nothing to solve. There's just you being alive. And the power of life can, in that 30 minutes, charge you. Because you're connected with it. But if you still try to figure out life, if you still try to think your way through life, that kind of clever attitude that the ego has, right? It has this idea that it can think itself through life, which is ridiculous if you contemplate it. It's our little brain thinking itself through life, making sure that everything will be perfect. And yet, look at the amount of suffering that exists in this world. Forget the world. Look at the amount of suffering that exists within your own mind. How much can you rest? How much can you just be here? Without anything to figure out, without any problem to solve, without any noise in your head, just being here, being alive. If you can enter that state, well, there is happiness. It's right there. And many people, they don't enter that state because they're secretly afraid. They think they don't deserve it. So we are mostly wired through our cultures, our societies, that if you haven't suffered hard, you don't deserve the rest. You don't deserve to be at ease. What have you done? If you've worked really, really hard, then maybe people tell you, okay, now you've done enough, so now you can enjoy retirement or something like that. Or you can enjoy a holiday. But even when we are on holiday or in retirement, the mind just keeps going. It doesn't really give us any rest. It's the whole lifelong learning of not resting, trying to find happiness somewhere in the future. And reflecting on duality helps with that. You can tell your mind, look, dear mind, I know what you're looking for, but you will not find it there. The mind might be anxious about a future event. So tell your mind, then, will it be bad? Will it be good? Ask these kind of simple questions. You will find out that the mind has to kind of fall back upon its memories and see, oh, well, there is nothing that stays bad and there's nothing that stays good. And in the end, it's just stuff, isn't it? I have a good friend here in Phuket who just told me today in the morning, at some point, well, he's complaining a lot about his life, usually, like, oh, my life is very difficult and it's very hard, and he has all these trouble living here on Phuket. And then he told me this morning, you know what? You just have to accept at some point that life is like this and make peace with it. And I found that very nice. Yeah, now he's making sense. Because if you worry about suffering around you and problems and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't make it better. Your worrying, your anxiety, your stress doesn't help the world to be better. It's just more suffering in the world. Just one person that suffers more. It doesn't make suffering less. It doesn't create the desired happiness and the desired peace. So at some point you have to kind of make it a priority to be happy and released and at ease, because you deserve it. And if you don't feel that you deserve it, let me give you permission to be happy. Because sometimes it's nice to get a permission, isn't it? It's okay to enjoy yourself. It's one more person in the world with joy. One more light person in the world. And we need more of that, definitely. You can make a wonderful difference if you are happy, joyful, and relaxed. If you're at ease with this imperfect world. You can also say the perfect world. This is the way it spins around and around. This is just the way it is. So it's okay. You're either at war with it or you're at peace with it. But your worrying, your complaining, your suffering doesn't make the world different. Once you realize that, you let go. You find some peace within and operate from that. So it gives rise to wholesome and uplifting and positive action. Helpful, creative action. Will that be good? Well, no. Neither. It'll not last either. It's just the way this world is. So we relax anyways. Not being attached to outcomes, not being attached to future results. Do it for the sake of doing it. Not for the sake of getting elsewhere or being elsewhere or becoming different. Do it because you enjoy doing it. And if you're not enjoying doing it, at least ask yourself, is the long-term result beneficial? Because it doesn't have to be always joyful what you do. It has to be skillful, though. It should be wise. Not always it has to be pleasant. The Buddha gives these four different actions. He says one is the action that feels good in the now and is good long term. The results of that action are good long term. Then there is the action that feels good in the now, but the results are bad long term. Then there are these actions that are bad, that feel bad in the now, but they are good long term. And then there are the actions that feel bad in the now, that are bad long term. So of course you give up the actions that feel bad right now and are bad in the long term, such as worrying is completely useless. Yes. But for example, making an effort to help someone, like let's say maybe I'm on the way to work and it would take me a minute to help, a famous example, to help the old lady cross the street, carry her grocery bags or something. It would take me that minute extra and I might get a bit later to work. It's a bit uncomfortable, but long term it gets good results. It's nice. It's a good thing to do. You make somebody happy, right? But ultimately, are we in control of good and bad? And do we ultimately know, will it be really good or bad? No. You help the old lady cross the street, you carry grocery bags for her, and because you carry the grocery bags for her, who knows, she has some problem later on in her life, you know. That we can't control. So ultimately you do what's good for the sake of doing it, and then you let go of results. You're being kind, you're being generous, you're being compassionate, and let go of results. You're not doing it for the future, you do it for the present, here and now. And that's as good as we can get. Is it perfect? No, perfection cannot be found outside. Or ultimate true happiness, stability, that can only be found within. Okay, so that's all that comes to mind for happiness and duality today. Is there any questions?